Grilled cheese is, of course, made with fresh baked bread. These are the ingredients you'll need. If you're like a lot of us during this lockdown, you've been getting into depression or anxiety baking. This is a really good loaf to make if you want any sandwich, and it's from the New York Times. Start by pouring 1.5 cups of whole milk into a stand mixer, along with 1 packet of instant yeast. If you're using active dry yeast, just bloom it before this step. You can see how this is done in our pizza video, as well as a few others. Add 1 tablespoon of kosher salt, 1/3 of a cup of white sugar, 3 tablespoons of melted unsalted butter, and 2 eggs. Give this a mix just to combine everything. Lastly, add 5 cups of all-purpose flour, but keep the bag of flour handy. I'll show you why in just a minute. You'll also need your dough hook for this process. Give this a mix for about 30 seconds, and then we're going to check the hydration of the dough. You want the dough to be somewhat sticky in texture, but the density to be a little bit firm. If yours is still pretty loose like mine is, add 1 tablespoon of flour at a time and mix again for 30 seconds. We'll check one more time. Still a little slack, so 1 more tablespoon of flour and 1 more mixing session. There, that's perfect. Firm, but still sticky. Now it's time to knead the dough. Do this on medium for about 10 minutes. While I was kneading, you could see this little pin coming loose on my mixer. This is really bad news, bears. Like, not good. Don't let this happen while you're mixing. Actually, let's pause for a second and do a little DIY so we can all learn how to fix this. Step 1, unplug it, obviously. If you flip the mixer over, you can see where this pin is supposed to slide through and hold the head onto the stand. If you had a pin that completely fell out, you can slide it back through this way. Thankfully, mine just had to be pushed back in. There's a little flathead screw in there that needs to be tightened down every once in a while. Tighten this with a screwdriver after you get the pin seated and you're good to go. In all seriousness, I will be checking this more often. I learned an important lesson today, and thankfully I didn't have to learn it the hard way. This mixer has been working hard on this show lately, and your kitchen tools need to be maintained to be safe. I saw this happening and thankfully stopped it before the head of the mixer came completely off the stand. And if you've ever picked up one of these, you know it's heavy as shit. I could have gotten hurt, but I'm glad to have learned a lesson with you today. Now, back to the show. In a separate bowl, give a light coat of some nonstick spray. Remove the dough from the mixer and place the dough in the bowl. Spray the top with a light coat and place some plastic wrap over the bowl. Let this rise for 1 hour. It should double in size. After the dough rises, turn out onto a lightly floured work surface and knead again for 3 minutes. Return the dough to the bowl and cover in plastic wrap. The second rise needs about 30 minutes. It may not double all the way again. To shape the loaves, turn it out onto your work surface and punch it down to remove all the air. Then divide this beaten up dough in half. Press the dough into a rectangle about 8 inches wide. Roll the rectangle up onto itself and then seal the bottom with this little weaving technique. It almost looks like you're tying your shoes, kind of. With the seam side still up, pull the ends of the dough together to form the little booty of the bread loaf. This little loaf goes into a loaf pan that has been greased with some non-stick spray. Let's do that again. Flatten it out, roll it up, seal the seam, booty time. This loaf is going into a more traditional aluminum pan. I wanted to see the difference between these and the cheap disposable ones. Give these a quick spray on the top and cover with plastic. Guess what? Time for another rise. This is the last one, and it's 45 minutes. When they're done rising, brush with a little melted butter for that extra deep crust and bake them at 400 degrees for 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, drop the oven to 350 degrees and bake for another 20 to 30 minutes. They will sound hollow when you tap on them. That's how you know they're done. Or you can take the internal temperature. It should be at about 200 degrees. Lastly, cool these on a wire rack until completely cool. No one said making bread was easy, but these are pretty gorgeous. And these are going to be great for our grilled cheese. As far as the 2 different pans go, I actually think the one in the cheap pan turned out way better. Who knows? Speaking of the cheese part of grilled cheese, why not try these on for size? I've got a nice sharp white cheddar, a not so smoky Gouda, a Parmigiano Reggiano, some brie, and finally some cream cheese. Don't judge that last little piggy there until you see what we do with it. Any of these hard cheeses also need to be shredded. Once your loaf of bread is completely cooled, slice only what you need. We're making a few different sandwiches, so I'm just going to buzz through this whole loaf. At this point, it's pretty similar to the half-measure grilled cheese. Butter every inch of one slice of the bread and put it into a non-stick pan on a medium-low heat. This is where you can get creative. Let's try one with the cheddar and the Gouda. Or maybe one with the Gouda and the brie. Maybe a little bit of the cream cheese and the cheddar. And then my secret grilled cheese weapon, pickled jalapenos. Oh yeah. Butter the other sides of the bread and flip after about 3 minutes. Cook for another 3 minutes on the other side or until it's golden brown. The very astute viewers out there will have noticed that I didn't use the Parmesan. That's because it's going in by itself, like literally by itself, right before the bread. Put the Parmesan directly in the pan, and then the buttered bread on top of the Parmesan. Top this with a little bit of cheddar or whichever cheese you'd like, and cook for about 3 to 4 minutes on each side. Feel pretty proud of yourself for bucking the tyrannical system of grilled cheese. But maybe just check, yeah, okay, it's good, we're good. Last thing here is to cut these little fellers into some triangles. Maybe stack them up, I don't know. They're fancy. Yeah, clean that up too.